Ravens flock. The flock rundown is the place to be. My man Ryan has been a lifelong Ravens fan since he was born. So I'm telling you now, it's about to go down. The podcast, the flock rundown. Ravens, baby. Nothing gets better than waking up and wondering how high we can fly. Tune in.
Motionless brainwaves attempt to swim their way to sense, can't tame the untamed.
Appreciate you, Ray. What's up, Ravens fans? My name is Ryan, and welcome back to another episode of the Flock Rundown. So the trade deadline came and went, and the Ravens did not make a trade this year, unfortunately. I'm a little disappointed, but it's not like I'm mad at Eric DeCosta. I know he was on the phone trying to make something happen. I think that the Ravens just chose to not overpay for somebody. You know, we're going to preserve our picks and build this team through the draft. And we have a lot of free agents to re-sign as well. I'm going to make another video for tomorrow about extensions and who I would like to see extended because we have a long list of free agents. But this video, I just kind of wanted to talk about the trades that did happen and how close we were to acquiring a guy or two possibly. So first big trade that went down was Montez Sweat to the Bears for a second-round pick. There was no way the Ravens were going to beat that offer. And I'm guessing even if they were interested in Montez Sweat, because there were some rumors that we were interested in Montez Sweat, we weren't going to pay a second-round pick for anybody, really. I mean, we gave up a second last year for Roquan Smith, and you know what kind of value he brings to our team. He's literally the leader of our defense right now and one of the main leaders of the team and is like an all-time linebacker. So that's what we paid a second-round pick for. Not to discredit Montez Sweat, dude's a beast, but he's not Roquan Smith or doesn't bring that kind of value, and we're not going to be able to give up what we would have had to give up a first because the Bears' second-round pick is, probably the 33rd through the 36th pick, right? Somewhere around there in the draft, early second round. And the Ravens' first-round pick is probably going to be, I don't know, hopefully 32. But even if they don't win the Super Bowl or make a playoff run, we're going to be mid-20s, definitely in the 20s. So we would have had to give up a first just to beat that offer because our second-round pick is not even going to be close to what the Bears is. So that was obviously out right away. If you're the Commanders, you're going to take that Bears pick all day. And then they trade Chase Young for a third to the Niners. Now, this is something I feel like we could have pulled off. The Niners are probably in a very similar draft range. So I feel like we definitely could have gave up a third. The fact that we didn't tells me that we really didn't want Chase Young. And it's not that we didn't want him at all. I just think that there's so many variables to it, right? He's a free agent, so you're going to have to give him a contract. And you have to consider who we may want to keep, right? Justin Madubuike is a free agent. Would you just let him go then and pay Chase Young or whoever else you might trade for? Owe is going to be a free agent in a couple years. Do you just let him go? I mean, these are things you have to consider. Are the guys that we already have in-house more valuable potentially than a Chase Young who has an injury history and has a history of not performing consistently? So I think that they just made the decision to not go after Chase Young. That's what it seems like to me. Or the Ravens weren't really chasing a pass rusher, at least aggressively, at all. We might be happy. We lead the league in sacks. We have Jadeveon Clowney and Van Noy this year. They might not be here in the future, but we have them this year. We have Owe. Ajabo will be coming back. Tyus Bowser, who knows, but he supposedly is supposed to come back. So there's a lot of factors there. Justin Madubuike is playing at a Pro Bowl level. Our D tackles are playing incredible. Michael Pierce, Travis Jones. So maybe we're just riding with the pass rush we have. Regardless, in the future, there's going to be a lot of pass rush changes. I mean, there's no way that we can keep this D-line intact with Clowney being a free agent, Van Noy being a free agent, Michael Pierce being a free agent, Justin Madubuike being a free agent, Owe in 2 years. Like, that D-line is not signed for the future. So I think we're going to ride it out this year, and then next year and the year after, there's going to be a lot of changes. And if you're listening to the reports, it appears that we were really trying to acquire a running back. So I think the Ravens were content with what they have on defense right now and shifted to a running back, which is also a hole. I'd say running back is probably one of the weakest positions on our team right now. And that's no shot at Gus Edwards. I love Gus, but he needs another guy there. He needs a playmaker that can pass protect, that can turn nothing into something and really make some plays and be explosive. And Justice Hill brings some of that to the table. Keaton Mitchell brings some of that to the table. We haven't seen him much, but it's hard to argue that running back is not one of the weaker positions on our roster. So I totally understand trying to go get an elite running back, a Josh Jacobs, a Saquon Barkley, a Derrick Henry. There were guys who seemed to be available, but the question is at what price? It seemed like we almost had a deal for Derrick Henry, at least according to reports. There was some drama on Twitter about who has legit sources and stuff like that, and we'll never know all the details of that. But I do believe that the Ravens were trying to acquire Derrick Henry and then made a late push for Josh Jacobs yesterday. And I believe that Derrick Henry and Josh Jacobs would love to come to Baltimore, so they were probably all for it. But their owners weren't, and they valued those guys at a higher level. I don't know why the Raiders wouldn't trade Josh Jacobs, because the Raiders seem like they're not going anywhere. They just fired their coach in the middle of the night, and the trade deadline's gone, so they're not going to move anyone now. Devontae Adams is unhappy. Josh Jacobs is unhappy. The offense is not performing well at all. They just benched their quarterback. I don't really like that situation at all, and I know that Devontae Adams and Josh Jacobs, who are in their primes, do not want to be there. And that sucks for them. I feel for them. I would love if the Ravens would have been able to pull off a Josh Jacobs trade, or especially a Derrick Henry trade. It seemed like the Titans just wanted more. Their owner wanted, a second-round pick because they felt like Derrick Henry was an all-time Titan, and the Ravens are like, nah, man, we're not giving a second-round pick. He's not Roquan Smith. And at the end of the day, we didn't pull the trigger because teams were asking for too much. There is a debate to be had whether we should have ponied up a little bit more to get one of these guys and really make this Super Bowl run. I think we're going to make a Super Bowl run regardless, but you can't tell me that having a Josh Jacobs or a Derrick Henry thrown into this current roster would not boost our chances. And the run game is going to be crucial. The way we play defense, we need to be able to run the ball. Especially, look at that Cardinals game, right? They run a ton of zone. They basically make sure you're not getting anything over us. You're not going to have any big plays downfield like you had against the Lions. What do you do against zone like that? You pound the rock. You go heavy personnel and pound it down their throats. And we did a little bit of that in the second half against the Cardinals, so kudos to the switch. But we need to come out and do that. That needs to be our mentality. We have the offense and the players to basically take what the defense is giving us. And if they have a lighter personnel on defense and are dropping everyone and playing a ton of zone to make sure that Lamar's not dicing them down the field, which is crazy, by the way. What a turn of events, right? Like all these years, we always face these stacked heavy boxes and everyone played man and let us throw down the field. And now the Cardinals were one of the first teams to kind of switch that up. After we did what we did to the Lions, the Cardinals are like, okay, Lamar's not throwing all over us. But it's easy to counter that. You just start pounding the rock, and it would work. It would work. You bring a power run game to that kind of defense, it makes them switch up. It makes them switch their personnel up, put a little bit heavier of a box. Now you can start to throw downfield. Now the play action works. So I don't think it's a big deal that we didn't make a trade. I think our team is strong enough. We're 6-2. Am I disappointed? A little bit. Yeah, I always want to add talent. And I feel like especially adding a running back to this current team, an elite running back, would have really put us over the top, would have really made this offense unstoppable. But let me know what you guys would have done. Would you have pulled the trigger? Would you have gave up a second for Jacobs or Henry? Would you have paid up to sway the owner to make that trade? Or do you like that the Ravens stood pat, stood strong, and kept their draft picks and are relying on the team that we have now? How confident are you in this roster? And how confident are you in our chances to win the Super Bowl? Let me know. I appreciate you guys tuning in to another episode of the Flock Rundown. As always, have a beautiful rest of your day, and I'll talk to you guys next time.
Motionless brainwaves attempt to swim their way to sense. Can't